Every AI benchmark you trust is a lie. Let me show you the receipts. 2 weeks ago, Google quietly updated its Gemini 2.5 Pro technical report. Buried in the appendix was an MMLU-Pro score north of 85%. OpenAI's O3 is right behind it. Anthropic's Claude 4 is nipping at both their heels. The leaderboard fanatics popped champagne. The rest of us who actually ship products with these models felt nothing. Because the number means nothing. And the villain here is not one company. It is the entire benchmark industrial complex that Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic have collectively built and collectively refused to fix. Every major lab publishes a flashy eval number the same week they drop a model. In my analysis, these numbers exist for one reason: to sell API minutes, not to tell you whether the model can actually think. MMLU died 2 years ago when researchers proved its questions were leaking wholesale into common crawl pre-training sets. The industry response was not to fix contamination. It was to ship MMLU-Pro, slap on harder questions, and call it progress. Here is why that fix was cosmetic. Point 1. Contamination is structural, not accidental. MMLU-Pro launched with roughly 12,000 questions. Within 6 months, those questions appeared on Reddit threads, GitHub repos, Hugging Face datasets, and dozens of educational sites that feed directly into the next common crawl snapshot. The pre-training pipeline does not distinguish between a textbook and a leaked test bank. So when Gemini 2.5 Pro scores 85%, a non-trivial fraction of that performance appears to come from having seen the answers during training. This is not cheating in a courtroom sense. It is an architectural inevitability that every lab knows about and none of them disclose on the marketing page. Point 2. Chain of thought is a shortcut, not a proof of reasoning. The new trick is to let the model think out loud before answering. It looks impressive. But recent ablation studies from independent researchers suggest that for multiple choice formats, chain of thought often functions as a sophisticated pattern match. The model is not deriving the answer through inference. It is generating tokens that statistically correlate with correct multiple-choice completions in its training distribution. Strip away the multiple-choice scaffold. Ask the same question as an open-ended problem requiring multi-step logic and accuracy craters. That gap is the gap between memorization and reasoning, and no benchmark built on a fixed question bank can measure it. Point 3. The economic incentive kills honest evaluation. Building a new benchmark costs real money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in expert time. FrontierMath, humanity's last exam, ARC-AGI2, these efforts are serious. But the moment they publish, the clock starts ticking. Labs fine-tune against them. Questions leak. Scores climb. And the benchmark creators have no enforcement mechanism. Meanwhile, the labs get another press release. The benchmark becomes a marketing asset, not a scientific instrument. This cycle now repeats roughly every 8 months. If you see through this and want someone saying it out loud every week, subscribe. We are not here to make friends with the labs. We are here to tell the truth about what these models actually do. Now the strongest counterargument. Someone will say newer benchmarks like FrontierMath use private held-out problems that have never been published, and that scores on those tests are genuinely low, proving the eval is still meaningful. Fair point. FrontierMath is the best thing we have right now, but the history is clear. Every private benchmark eventually leaks, gets reverse-engineered, or gets approximated by synthetic data close enough to boost scores. The structural problem is not any single test. It is that we evaluate generative systems with static, finite question banks and then act surprised when systems trained on the entire internet memorize those banks. Until we move to dynamic, procedurally generated evaluations that test multi-step reasoning on problems the model has provably never seen. Every number on every leaderboard deserves an asterisk. So here is where we land. Google just posted a record MMLU-Pro score. The press covered it like a moon landing. But the engineers actually building with Gemini 2.5 Pro, with O3, with Claude 4, they know the models still hallucinate on basic logic chains, still fail at novel multi-step tasks, still collapse when the problem deviates even slightly from the training distribution. The leaderboard says we are at 85%. The production logs say we are nowhere close. So tell me, if the benchmarks do not measure reasoning, and the labs know they do not measure reasoning, why are we still letting benchmark scores decide which model gets our money?